So kinesiology, it's known in many different ways in different countries, but here in Australia, it's looking at you from a holistic approach. It's looking at your body to heal it on a physical level, energetic, etheric level, emotional level, mental level, and a spiritual level. Where I'm from, I'm originally from Canada. I now have residency here in Australia. When I heard about kinesiology, it was about structure and function of the body. So it was more about how does the body function, and can we use muscle testing to improve the muscles? So I just want you also to know what it's not. There's something called Psych K out there, and it's like maybe a $500 course online. It's not what it is. But what I studied was kinesiology, which covers, kind of like similar to what a general practitioner would cover. You go over nutrition, the different body system, digestive, endocrine system, you name it, but also energy psychology. And this is where my passion lies. And so I'm going to get into all of this. I'm so excited about it. So just going back to what it is, again, it is a way to balance your body's systems. And how we do that is we connect to your bioenergy field. So if we look at the theory that, say, energy cannot be destroyed or created, and we know that, let's say the idea is that we are all energy, and there's dense energy, and for us to live from A to Z, we need to have a linear life, but actually perhaps if we're just energy, then think about the possibilities. It's all about how we're relating to ourselves and also the world. And just to measure energy, just to give you an idea, I walked in this room, and before you even heard me speak, you probably thought, you start to make judgments, you start to make, notices, like using your senses, right? And so that is your energy feeling my energy, right? So think about that. And so my name's Genest, and I am I do psychosomatic work here at the clinic with Krishna Village, and I've been here for 5 months. And let's look at more into diving into what kinesiology is. So again, like I said, you're balancing the body systems. When we look at the allopathic system, they look at symptoms and then they treat those symptoms. Is there anyone here that are psychologists or doctors or anyone in the medicine or, yeah, okay, lovely. So I went to go see a chiropractor the other day because I was curious about how they did this. And that's where it all stemmed from. Chiropractors found out that you could do all these assessments of the different muscles and find out that you can strengthen the body by putting it in certain postures, using neuroemotional, neurovascular, or neurolymphatic points, many different things. But as that started to grow and develop, they realized there's a doctor, general practitioner, Dr. Dewe, I think, and his partner, they found out actually that you can strengthen the body by not just that, but also through nutrition and also through moving the flow of energy and information, which is emotions. You can look at your life path and start to consider many different things, right? So it was looking at your energy field and your chakra systems, and balancing these things, you could actually give yourself more optimal health and wellness. So the beautiful thing about this work, I find, is that when you connect to your energy field, you're essentially connecting to the life force energy. And this life force energy that radiates out of us like a torus field from the bottom and top, and also our heart has the same thing. In fact, everything sentient really has this torus field radiating. And these electric fields or electromagnetic fields there's many of them, but ones I'll just talk about now is you have your physical, right? Then you've got your energy or etheric, which kind of comes off the body like this. This is why you could run meridians aurically, just hovering over the body. Then you have about arm's length is your emotional field. Then a bit further, you've got your mental field. And then further out, you've got your spiritual field. And so I can confidently say that if you got something going on spiritually, maybe like you have a bond with someone, maybe like a spiritual bond where you had a karmic debt with them and you had to relive a story, but then it's past now and it's time to move on, that could linger in the spiritual field. And at the same time, maybe you have an emotional, distraught thing with someone and it's affecting your emotional field. Perhaps maybe you're mentally disturbed with mental illness or what have you, and those are these funny black, let's call them black murky balls and things in the field. I can confidently say that if you address those, you could literally prevent illness, disease, and ailments. Because what happens is it starts there. It starts in the spiritual field, then the emotional or mental emotional, and then it comes into the physical. So how does that manifest? Well, through an accident or an injury. And by then, it's kind of like a catalyst. It's like your body's saying, hey, you know, you didn't really listen. I gave you all the warning signs. And then finally, you know, you injure your knee. And then you have to then deal with that. And maybe, you know, it's funny how metaphysically things that relate to the body kind of are almost obvious. Like when we walk, our feet move forward and then our knees do. And knees are about direction. Where are we going in our direction? Where are we going here? Are we going there? Are we confused? And then bam, you injure yourself. This can happen. And then you're stuck to sit there with yourself to work out what's next. So I believe, and I feel this is true through, you know, Dr. Sue Morter is someone who I've been following, and also Bruce Lipton, who is the pioneer of stem cell research. I'll talk about epigenetics a bit later. But for now, when we talk about Dr. Sue Morter, her father actually was I guess, and also a pioneer of alternative medicine, or you know, the energy medicine essentially. And then she's a doctor. Now she's going back and finding that this type of work works. So, okay, so going again back to the energy field, we essentially have this life force energy. And if this life force energy is, I don't want to say blocked, it's more like a gap. It's not allowing energy to flow, right? So if it's not allowed to flow, then suddenly there's it's almost like when you look through your energy field, it's almost as if there's a wobble or it's distorted. And that's then you're perceiving the world to be unsafe. Or there's a problem or there's issues. But you can start to, through this work, and I'll get into it, how we can reduce stress and raise our life force energy. We can then start to see our world actually safe. And we can start to remember, dismember, bringing back, calling back our energy back. Realize that actually if we look and witness and observe ourselves, we can start to see, oh, this is happening because of this lesson I'm meant to learn, or this is happening because this is teaching me something. This person I can't tolerate, but actually there's something about them, there's gold underneath. You know what I mean? So these things. But if we just walk aimlessly through life unconsciously, we might run into issues and we're just going to be stressed and not really living our life to our fullest potential. And that, to me, is my dream, is to live my fullest potential, but also to help others do the same. So looking at this energy field, I would say that the soul is connected to the body. How could it not be? And there's great spirit running through us. And it's the spirit, the breath, the prana. Prana is attached to the oxygen molecules in the atmosphere, moving through your body because you're an energy field. And if this is flowing and connected to your soul, then there's a higher mystical, also another component that's involved in this. So for example, let's say you did have, you know, injuries or some disease or something going on. I often will always ask permission, almost every time, because I don't want to interfere with your karma or your dharma or something, because what if this injury you get becomes this catalyst for your change, and then you end up writing books, and then you end up being this amazing, leaving a legacy, or who knows, right? So I'll never want to interfere with it. But let's say you have these subconscious programs, and maybe that's all for a reason too, that are inhibiting you to live your life fully because you're stressed. Examples could be being in a situation like I'm right now, talking in front of a group of people, doing a presentation. This is actually one of the top things that people are afraid of. Also, going out socially, social anxiety, like you can list it, right? So what it will do, what this work can do, is it's somatically, body related, is going to release the memories that are held. You know these books, I haven't read it, but The Memory Holds a Score, this kind of thing. It's the body is holding these memories to keep you safe. And what is subconscious? Well, it's basically the programs that you learned throughout your life, but mainly during your formative years when you were born and to the age of 7, but also beyond that, in the womb, at conception, and beyond. Maybe, you know, if you believe in past lives or that type of thing, first, second, third trimester, and beyond. And so these things affect you. And then we're living our life either one of two things. From this place, which is stress and just trying to keep us safe, and there's a reason for it, because obviously the body's like, how do I thrive and survive? I'm just going to keep doing what worked before. But actually, as you get older, you realize that this is not something you want to keep. So the beautiful thing about this work is that we get to the root cause of the issue by muscle testing. And I'll get into later also like a process, so you get an idea of what a session would look like and how it works, because energy, you know, sometimes we do Reiki, sometimes we do, like, it's essentially we have a database and of everything, every physical, mental, emotional, spiritual thing you could think of. It's almost like the Akashic record and everything that existed before and after and now. And so all you do is muscle test to find out what your body needs in the order it needs to achieve your goal. And the reason I'm saying this is because we could just give you a session and allow the energy to move, and maybe the soul, your higher self, and my higher self, because we're working together. Basically, it's my consciousness and my past lives and my ancestry and my lineage working with you and your consciousness and your life experience, as is mine. And that's what we're working together to find this way to create harmony and balance within the body. And more often than not, if you have a practitioner who's compassionate and loving, they say when you come in contact with someone, usually you're going to raise the frequency. The person will raise the frequency based on the heart's frequency. So there's this. But also with this energy field, this life force that you have, the soul is also for your best interest. So if you have an injury, let's say, what does it do? It naturally heals itself, right? So you know that it has its own intelligence and it has its own way of working it out. And then when I'm working with you, I'm able to communicate to the body. It's like, oh good, Jennifer's here, great, we're gonna get through this, because your soul is like, I wanna start living my dreams, living my passions, and why am I holding myself back? And so let's talk about the subconscious mind a little bit. Or unconscious then, I would say, is also then when we're starting to live unconsciously. But this is sometimes we'll be doing things, saying things, living without us even knowing we're doing that. And I think that we were trying to aim to be conscious beings, living from choice and decision. And I'm walking here because this is where I'm walking, not because I'm just walking like a robot, right? So how can you get to the root cause of the issue? Well, you could just work with energy and allow it to flow, or you can say, okay, I have a goal. My goal is this is just one example. I choose to support myself for optimal health and wellness. And the body says, okay, whoa, you want that? Okay, now this is your body, this is intelligence, it's also your soul, spirit, because that's what I work with. I'm always working for your highest good health and well-being. In that way, then, your body's like, okay, if you want that, well then guess what? All these things are going to have to fall away in order to get that. So with my intention that is very clear, with intention which is focused and concentrated on you to get you for you to achieve your goal, then I'm able to then access what it is that you need to fall away to get to the goal. So it's quite brilliant, because you're not just working with random, you're actually working with something tangible. And sometimes, because energy works in mysterious ways, you might find like, oh, suddenly, you might not really notice a difference, but then a month later, you're like, holy, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and this isn't bothering me anymore. And it's because you've changed your energy. So you change your energy, you can change your physical body. Now, it's not to say that if you have an injury, that you can't then treat it or find something that's gonna help, because you can. You could literally say a goal like, my knee is structurally, functionally sound on every level in order for me to run races, or whatever it is that you want. So you see how you can go into many different things. And if that's all in alignment with your, I guess, soul purpose perhaps, then the energy will work in your favor for this. And then you could say, oh, maybe I need asparagus, or I need omega-3 fatty acids, or whatever it is for your need to be functioning optimally and healthy. Okay, so I'm just going to pause. Does anyone have any questions so far? Am I making sense? You do. Yeah? Okay. Amazing. Okay, so when it comes to energy fields, this energetic field that we've got, it's sort of like a hologram. It's a hologram of who we are, what we've been, and everything that exists within us, I guess. And this is why we can then, they call it clear, what's in your energy field from now, the future progression, or in the past. We can age recess to the time when you were 3 or 6, where you know, something happened to you, and then we can somatically balance you so that no longer is affecting you, come back to present time, and then you'll find out later in life that isn't bothering you at all. And so this is amazing. Whereas in the allopathic system, not to really talk shit about it, but you get all these symptoms, it leads to this, it leads to that, and then they treat it, they oppress it, they suppress it. You get these pharmaceutical drugs, not to say that it's not needed, sometimes it is, but you're not really getting to the root cause, and then you're just piling on top of more gunk and so I get really excited because I feel like this is really going to help people step into their power, do the things they want to do, and get their health back as well. So there's other thing called chakras, and chakras are more, like I was saying about the auric fields, are more like you it's almost like the complete timeline of you. But when it comes to chakras, that's more about how you are now in the present moment. And so I would encourage you all to balance your chakras every day, because then you will find that stability. You'll find you have this creative energy. You'll find yourself in your power. You'll be in your heart, living from that place of softness and love and whatever. And then you're speaking your truth. You'll be getting visions about things and feeling connected to your divine self. And so we can balance the chakras too. Maybe there's a chakra that's out of balance and you can balance it, but maybe it keeps going out of balance because of XY blockages. I don't want to say blockages, but more gaps or interferences, disturbances in the field that are causing it to not flow and create this nice, beautiful harmony. And so this thing with life energy, well, we have this something called meridian system. And the meridians are nadis, or they're energetic lines that run through the muscles. And there's a few of them. You've got the central, the governing, the heart, and they all run and connect. And so when these are in flow, it's important. Water is a conductor of energy, so you want to have water so that way you are, this energy is being able to move effortlessly and more effectively. You will start to have more consciousness and more space that you're acquiring or making up, basically, in your field. You know, some people that look collapsed or something, and not just physically, but sometimes you see people and they don't like fill the space. It's like, why is that? Like, why? You know, so it's like, sometimes you can, when you start to get into the subtleties, you can start noticing people, the way people walk. Maybe they're not confident, they might be like this, or they have something going on here. It's usually because the muscle things can start to adapt because there's interferences. Even emotions are a huge factor that we can resolve, because, I mean, do you go to the doctors for these things? No. Do you go to the doctor for spiritual reasons? No. So this is kind of where we can come back to this work to help with balancing you holistically on all the levels. Okay. So the nadis, again, I mentioned that. So the way I see it is it's the interface between your physical and your metaphysical body. How cool is that? So it's your bioenergy field that we're connecting to then get a reading, let's say, of what you need for whatever goal you want. Okay, so now this thing about muscle testing, let's get into that. So I would say, look, I want to empower all of you because you guys can do all of this. But I have to admit, like, it's an art and it takes probably 2 years, if not more or less, depending. So there's a few things that you can do. And one of them is if you stand with your feet hip width apart, and your knees slightly bent, and say if you were to go to a shopping mall, you can see food on the shelf, and you can just play with it. Be like, body, talk to it like it's a human being. Body, is this food good for me? Do you want this? And you'll notice either if it's a yes, you might lean forward. If it's a no, you'll lean back. It could be, oh yeah, this is good for me. It's maybe not so much. It's a maybe, it's a yes. If it's like this, it's repulsive and your body's like, no, that's toxic, I don't want that, then you might go back. So that's one way of doing this muscle testing. Now, here's the thing though. You have to be careful because you could get obsessed about it, but also you can really actually do it for everything, but that's getting a bit too out there. But what I was going to get at is that a trained practitioner will be able to bypass your maybe unconscious, subconscious mind too, because sometimes you might try this and it's chocolate, and your body's like, yeah, the magnesium, the feel-good hormones, and yes, of course. But actually, there's dairy or something, soy or whatever is in there that your body's like, no, I don't want that. So this is kind of where we have to be careful. Like, it's not always for sure. But again, a trained practitioner will be able to bypass those things and get down to the nitty-gritty, okay? And then I also want to mention this because this is also really important too, is things like, allergies and sensitivities. We call it immune mismatch response. And I'll give you an example, a very basic example. You might have, maybe an experience in the past where you were eating dinner with your family and your parents yelled at you when you were eating, mac and cheese or something. So every time you're exposed to this food, you might get an allergy reaction, and it can manifest as many different things: skin rashes, anaphylactic shock, to just a runny nose or whatever, something that's irritating. But get this, the body does not know the difference between what is real and what is not. And so it just sees the mac and cheese, but actually it's not that. It's the emotional component, the abuse or the trauma or whatever that is associated with that food. So these are the things that we can clear, because, mac and cheese is not probably a good example. I wouldn't eat it, but just give you an example. Maybe it's, something else, fruit that you want to eat again, pineapple, banana, whatever, but your body's having this reaction. So you can see now how this work can be quite amazing, where we're getting down to it. Now, it might take time. You might have to reintroduce that food slowly, and just start eating it again, because there's still some things you need to consider, because energy sometimes needs time and that for it to integrate. So there's those types of things. And but maybe now I'll go back to the subconscious stuff, because that's kind of the exciting bit, because I feel like that's a big part of how this work can be very helpful and is unique in that way. So I'll give you an example. So when I was a student working with a peer, during the COVID bit of lockdown or whatever, we were told, oh, you have to work online. And quite honestly, I'm quite intuitive and right brain, but I also am quite skeptic, and I do like science, and I do like knowing all the things. So I was actually quite like, yeah, right, But I was like, okay, I'm willing to, and I'm quite, open to things and very like, ooh, exciting, how amazing this could be. Let's do this experiment. So anyway, so I'm online with her, and she's like, oh, I said, okay, so do you want to be the client first and I'll be the practitioner? She's like, yeah, because Jennifer, like seriously, right now, we're almost done school, and I don't really see how I'm going to quit my job and actually get into this work. Like, I just don't see it happening. She kept saying that, I don't see it happening. And so a therapist or someone listening, you could just take the obvious, oh, she can't see it happening. Okay, I'm listening. And then I thought, okay, well, let's just go straight to sabotage programs, because we're all gung-ho, really excited. And I said, okay, so what I do, back to the muscle testing, is I muscle test myself. Now, our right brain is creative. It's that sort of intuitive side. So I like to use my left hand. And so I'm muscle testing myself, but I'm surrogating for her. So I'm connected. We both agree with permission that I'm connected to your energy. And now I'm going to start this balance. So I go into my database of subconscious life statements, and these are simple ones like, I am loved, I'm not loved. I need control, I don't need control. Or there's a whole list of them. So anyway, so I'm like, okay, 1 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 31, 32. Okay, let's see what 32 is. And obviously it's a no-brainer, but I found this. I read it, and it said, I can't see. I can see. So in that moment, I was just like, oh my God. It works, because it's like, so basically there was this conflict. So you have two. You've got an energetic, like a psychological reversal, which is usually when it's deeply embedded from trauma that's constant, or you have a conflict. It's like, I want the chocolate, or I don't want the chocolate. But, and so then we do these things. This is why when we have addictions and phobias and habits, it's like this, it's this want, I don't want. So anyway, going back to this, We ended up finding the emotion, finding the meridian where it's held. We do neurolinguistic programming. There's many different techniques and things that we can do to clear this. But basically, she had a sabotage conflict of I can see, I cannot see, which was holding her back from her stepping into her profession. She's doing amazing now. She's now in the field, and I'm actually really impressed. So it's this conflict that's playing in the back, and imagine that's in the field, how, like you can see now how that would affect you, right? Especially with psychological reversals. You're such in trauma, the body is in mismatch, it literally starts to eat the foods that are terrible for you. You're doing the things that are not good for you, smoking, drinking alcohol, and you wonder why, but it's just because of that. And so, now I wouldn't say just because of that, because you know, I'm sure there's other things, but I have seen really good results when we can balance this. So what it is essentially is that we have neural pathways in the brain and neural pathways in the body. And so it's this body-mind connection. And so what happens is, if we were to see an experience and we perceive it as a threat, what can happen is this surge that kept us safe in the past is refiring and rewiring. And so then you have this, you know that feeling, right? It's like, oh my God, you get sweaty, you get hot, you're like, it's nervous, you're like scared. All it is just a sensation that's there to keep you safe. But if you can now reduce it, because it's just a surge held in the meridian systems that can leak into the muscle tissue and other areas of the body, but we'll address it because we'll find out. But if we can reduce that surge, then we can then increase all the other meridians that need to flow better. So then your whole body is working functionally. And in this way, going back to like a chiropractor, they will assess muscles and say, how do we strengthen your body? And then they'll find out, oh, your gallbladder on this is connected to this nerve, C5, whatever it is. And then they'll do an adjustment. But instead, what we can do is we can literally find anything and everything to get to that goal. And then we can now start to implement the behavior that you do want. So it's on top of that even better, because you can structurally balance yourself, but how do you know it's not going to go back into that funny shape that we're walking every day because of, you know, whatever, the pull and the imbalance. Maybe the emotion that's stuck there, causing a disturbance. So this is a really big thing, and I've seen it happen where you can make such great changes in your life. So I would encourage you to be open and open to this. So back to the muscle testing, I just want to talk more about structurally so it makes sense. So I'm asking for a yes or no, or a stress or unstressed response. And what I do is I factor in through elimination, does a muscle work or not? And if it can, great. I can turn it on, I can turn it off. Anatomically, or physiotherapists will use the terms insertion and Golgi apparatus. So basically you're spindling on, spindling off the muscle. You know it can function because it can turn on and off. Any muscle that can turn on and off, great. But sometimes muscles turn off and they don't go back on. And so we can also balance this out, because sometimes you have a reactive pattern. So it could be a reactivity going on between two muscles, which is causing the imbalance because there's emotion. Every time I have this experience or see this person, this happens, and then this weakens and this strengthens. And it's this constant spiral pattern. Whereas we can undo all that and start to then rewire what we want to infuse back into the body through the neurological organization and rewiring of the somatic movement of allowing the chi to flow in a more harmonious, coherent way. So the brain and body are functioning optimally, because also what can happen is sometimes the body will forget how it's supposed to function. And so if you have a reference point, maybe I might have a healthy body part that then I'm in contact with your body, and then all of a sudden the body's like, oh yeah, now I remember how it's supposed to go. You know, so this is why it's important for me to have self-care, to look to be caring for myself on all the levels, because I also have to be healthy as well in order to work with people who might have disease, sickness, and these types of things. And so sometimes energy work might seem quite like, oh, you know, but if you think about it, if it can prevent disease, and sometimes people think it's so expensive too, but actually if you think about it, if someone is connecting to your energy and they're literally, you know, they're giving a lot, they're connecting to you, they're working with you, and there's so much value in that. And one day, already there's these detectors that can now detect the meridian lines which run on the wrists, right? And if you put it against the skin, it'll go zzz, zzz. I can't remember what it's called. Anyways, off the top of my head, I can't remember now, but there's this, now, you know, and there's also now electron microscopy, I think, where they're starting to show that, like the colors for different energy fields and chakras and all these things. So there is starting to show proof that there is this energy. And one day, I mean, I'm happy to, would love to be able to put on display and be like, look at this, and then see what we're doing here and look at the change before and after. And so some things we can do is we can measure how you feel after, how your life is different, how your reality might change. And those are things to look at, because those are the signs that you've changed you. And of course, you as an energy being, you're going to attract, energy attracts energy. So like attracts like. And it's just continuously flowing and manifesting and creating different patterns, basically. Okay, so muscle testing. Muscle test yourself. You can do this one. There's ones you can link and hold, unlock. So my name's Jennifer, my name's Kristen. I won't get into that right now because there's lots I want to cover, but these are things that you could start to experiment with, and it gives you a sense of power. But really, if you also think about it, what this work can do is get you to a place of calm and safety and a sense of relaxation, and get you more in touch with your intuition. Because after a session, you might start to realize, oh, now I know what my body's telling me, and now I know how it communicates to me, because when I do sessions, I talk everything out, and you know exactly what I'm doing. So let's maybe talk about how a session would run. So you have a goal. Then you would talk about, not brief, like just briefly, I mean, just the issues and problems that are relating to it. Then we would bring the subconscious online by showing you images and pictures and things, because that's how it works. Dream world, subconscious, it sees it in patterns and images. So I'm essentially bringing to light what is out of balance. So it's working with you, your soul, your body, all that. Then we'll look at measuring how we can decide whether or not this is that you're going to have a shift in the session. We're going to raise your life energy. We're going to reduce the somatic stress that's held in the body from those memories. And then from there, essentially, we have a few phrases that are really important you don't want to miss. Is things like, are you 100% willing to let go of the need for the issue? Because you could try to address things, but if holding on to what you have is safe and okay, then actually stepping out to make a change, how are you going to let go of those things? So you see, it can get quite complex. Then, are you 100% willing to accept the benefits of change? So then again, are you worthy? Do you have enough self-esteem? Are you confident? Are you, all those things that, that play into what our parents told us, or guardians, whatever it is, We heard something during our formative years. We soak stuff up, especially when we're sleeping and in surgery as well. Be mindful. Tell your surgeon to put classical music on or something else. Anyway, getting to that, so then what we'll do afterwards is I have a database and a muscle test. How can we reduce the most stress for you to achieve the goal? And the other thing could be, are you determined to implement the goal? Because guess what? Action follows energy. So the moment you make a decision, suddenly the universe is like, oh, she's done. He's made a decision. Let's start flowing with her or him. And then when you start taking the action, it starts to work with you, right? And so coming back to Bruce Lipton about epigenetics, this is also something really important. Epi means above, genetics. So what's more significant than genetics is the genes. But actually, I want all of you to forget that you are predisposed to getting XYZ disease from your parents or lineage. This is BS. Why? Well, here's one way you can change this. If you get out of that relationship that is not serving you because you've worked out your subconscious programs and all the things I mentioned, if you get out of this job that you don't like anymore, that's all, what I'm talking about, or it could be whatever it is, this thing that is, you just know because it doesn't feel good to you, you just know it. If you change that and then you finally empower yourself through this work, perhaps maybe, then you're going to step into a new environment. And the environment around you actually is what shifts you. And then your telomeres of your DNA start to lengthen and open. And they start to open up new consciousness and they feel relaxed. And then you have longevity and recovery and a longer life. And you're moving away from stress and decay and dying to regenerating, literally, to you can probably start to become looking younger, not even kidding, you know, and to regenerate. And because the environment and how you're perceiving it, this is the other big thing, is your perception is 100% key. Because I could look at the same thing as you and I'm scared of this white curtain, but it's just a curtain. So I'm trying to make it obvious, but you see what I mean? It's like, if you perceive it, then what happens? You look at it, then you're scared, and then the body produces this cortisol and adrenaline, all those stress hormones in the body from the adrenal glands that then, you know, create more havoc on the body. So this work is great for reducing the stress. I mean, how amazing would life be like if you went through life with challenges and all sorts of chaos and wildness, but you didn't feel that uncomfortable feeling of like, that stressful feeling? How cool would that be, right? So for me, it's like, I would love for people to feel this and know this and that this is something. So the perception, guys, is so important. How we look at the world, how we see our lives, and look, you might say, okay, you might just need one session, you might need 3, but the way to gauge whether or not you do is just look at your life. What do you see? What's the reflection around you? And also, are you able to function? If you can function and life's good, then fine, maybe you don't need kinesiology. But if you're noticing these things, you want to make changes and you're stuck and nothing's moving and or maybe you're curious or whatever, and there's more to life than meets the eye and you're wondering about your life path or whatever, then maybe it's time. Okay, so I'm going to now talk about spiritual issues and then mental health stuff because I'm looking at the clock. And I'll just go into the spiritual issues. Okay, so when I say that, what comes to mind when I say that? Okay, that's fine. Here we go. All right, so there's a few things. Spiritual issues, okay. So in some ways, it's all about your energy. We all have energy. We need to protect the energy. And so sometimes if we are speaking up too much, speaking too much, if we're giving away everything, if we're not listening and maybe we've educated ourselves, we have all this knowledge and wisdom and whatever, and we're not then we're not actually sharing it, that's another issue, because what are we here for, right? So this is kind of part of it. Maybe you need to take time to go in and actually source out, you know, that's within you, the resources that are within you, that you can access your power, your inner guidance. And maybe you've just fallen off the path, but you need a little bit of some of that reassurance or something. So this is something that we can help you find. Maybe you're speaking too much. Maybe you're not speaking enough. Maybe you have there's truth that you know of, and you're just like too scared to say something. But actually, you better say it because this is why you're here, you know? Like, these are the sort of the things. The other one is energy input. So we can drain people by telling, like gossiping. We can drain people by, you know, when it doesn't feel right and we're in people's energy. Sometimes they're like, if you go out socially and you're like, I just don't really, this doesn't feel right. I don't really feel like this space. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's just not your frequency, your vibration at that time. And so actually it's maybe better for you to eat alone by yourself and enjoy your meal and eat consciously. But then we might fear, oh, but I'm eating alone and does this look bad and what are people thinking of me? But actually you're just having this beautiful relationship with your food, because what you put in the body, you can bless water, right? Water is quite a powerful element and it holds energy and information. So what you put in water, put in your food is going into your body. So you always have to be kind of really mindful of, you're talking to someone, if they're yelling at you or you don't like what they're saying, get away from them and eat your food somewhere else, you know, as an example. So it's this input. And also if you're complaining and you're draining people, you can also drain people of their energy. And sometimes this is happening unconsciously or consciously. So it's just something to be mindful of. So we can kind of get you on track with where that reference point is. Okay. Well, this one comes to mind. Wounded soul. This is where the deep traumatic wounds from this lifetime and past can really affect you, where you've maybe lost your soul, lost your spirit, or they talk about defragmented parts of you are over here, out there, somewhere else, earthbound on another planet, who knows, like it starts to become, this infinite sort of story. But these are the things, and you'll know by gauging something's not quite right. And so with this work, we've got these modes that have titles and descriptions on what to do. And if it shows up, why not trust that that's what it is, right? So sometimes you feel like you're out of your body and you don't know, like you're just kind of walking and you have this body, but you feel like you're not fully here, present, grounded, connected. It's like, what's going on, right? So these sorts of things. So it's that subtle, working on the subtle level. Okay, another thing. There's something called entities, right? So it could be someone might have put a spell on you. Someone could maybe there's a spirit, there's an entity. There could be things like, these sorts of things. But I don't want to put any fear into anyone's eyes, but it's like, these things do exist. But usually they're in places where there's clutter, dark places, like things haven't been stagnating. Again, it's all about flow. Things have been stagnating, there's clutter, there's no movement happening, things are molding. So you might feel, why is over here this feeling feels funny? Listen to that. There's a reason for that. And that's what it's drawn to, right? So this energy could be interfering with your coherence. And it might not be in your field, doesn't mean you're a bad person. You could be a loving light and they're like, yeah, vampires, suck on this, This could be happening and you'd be like, why am I drained? Why I have no energy? And so this is something that we could target and find that's happening. And so we would do a certain type of ritual and many things are done. It just depends on that person and what they need for a particular thing. But then again, of course, I just want to say this, is that sometimes things can happen, yes, unconsciously, but I want you to know, put you in power, is that nothing can affect you without your willing, okay? So it's not like, but it does happen, it does exist. Okay, so those types of things. Again, it's all about the energy. Is your energy draining or is it feeling full and uplifted? So these are the things we have to consider. Life path. Okay, so maybe all our lives we've been living on this coping mechanism of needing to be in control, needing to be successful, needing to drive and to work and all this thing. And then suddenly we're at our mid-30s when we're like, oh dear, like I don't want to do this anymore and I still don't want to do it, but how do I change my life now? I've been doing this forever. And so, but you have purpose and you've got a mission and you've got a destiny and you're all here to share your beautiful gifts that you're meant to offer this world and humanity in different forms, shapes, or, in different ways. It could be the idea that you are a creative being, a creative force. And maybe there are powers that be that are understanding the idea about harnessing energy, and perhaps maybe there is another force that's out there that's imbalanced, right? There's no right or wrong, it's just an imbalance that's causing us to, be lacking the favor of what's going on in the world. However, I'm starting to conjure this idea that when we heal ourselves, we're actually healing the world. So when we look at what's going on inside and actually face it, acknowledge it, feel it, understand it, as so within, so without. Maybe the wars going on in the world, maybe all these things happening isn't actually a reflection of just what's happening, but what if it actually is us? Because we're going out there, we're sending the energy out there, oh, this, that happened, this and that and the other, but actually we should be coming back to ourselves, coming back to our energy. What's going on with me? What do I need and what do I want? And how can I live optimally and live with joy and love and all these things, right? Not to say that, shame, guilt, and all these lower frequencies, because, vibration, frequency, and energy is measured in hertz. Not to say any of these frequencies are labeled bad or good or anything. They do exist. And that's actually one of the things I want to also mention is that, like, if you look at nature, it decays, it decomposes, it gets dirty, it stinks, it's gross. That's all happening within us. So we are nature. So we should be living like the cycles of nature. And so when we're have shame or guilt or all these things or whatever, we don't want to be avoiding it and putting it away and putting it under the rug. We actually want to go, what is this? Oh, this is just from when I was a child or this or that. And once you just work through it, and maybe it's uncomfortable and painful, but once you do it, that will shift you, and then your reality shifts. And then who knows how that ripple effect is going to cause someone else. Because again, energy is all moving and in harmony, and it can affect the world based on you.